Most leaders were trained for a world that no longer exists because the rules have changed. AI is moving faster than organizations can adapt, and the pressure on leaders to deliver results while keeping people aligned has never been higher. AI and emotional intelligence are of the utmost importance. Today, I am joined by Caroline Stokes, global leadership strategist, executive coach, and author of Aftershock 2030 and Elephants Before Unicorns. She argues that leadership is not broken, but it's being forced to evolve. Caroline, welcome to Win-Win Leadership.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really grateful to spend time with you.
Caroline, your background is beautiful today. Where are you joining us from?
I'm joining from beautiful British Columbia. It's going to be home for TED next week, the big conference and it's going to be raining by the time everybody gets here. So I'm just enjoying this beautiful sunshine while we have it.
Yes, it does look like a very beautiful sunshiny day. So thank you for taking time away from the sunshine to spend some time with us today. Caroline, I am very impressed with your work. I've done work in emotional intelligence for most of my career. So I'm truly honored that you are here today and going to share some of your expertise. Your new book that's out, Aftershock 2030. Why does this book matter so much?
Thanks for the question. So why does this book matter so much? Well, for starters, it was a very personal thing. It mattered a lot because back in 2019, when I did a little TEDx talk in Brooklyn, I was in a situation where I could see that there was this massive change, even after just a couple of months after my book, Elephants Before Unicorns, had launched. And I was thinking that book was not the book I wanted to write for this time because we're accelerating so quickly in AI and very invisible for the majority of people. And I knew the world was shifting. I mean, we had this little blip in, globally called the pandemic, and as we know, it disrupted everything. It forced us to change. And I think the majority of us were thinking, you know what? We're all going to make the world a better place. And we didn't really succeed. That time I did MIT's course on ESG, basically business sustainability. Then I did, the year that ChatGPT came out, I did another MIT professional certification course specifically on AI for business strategy. And that's when it all came together for me, because when you're doing stuff at MIT, you actually apply the learning into models for the work that you do with clients. And that's when I realized we're accelerating so fast. We cannot, as human beings, our internal operating system in here is not able to adapt fast enough. And that's why I had to write the book. A CEO was assassinated in 2020. It was December 2023. And that's when I accelerated the book, because I realized at that time, CEOs are the last resort to actually change the world that we're in. And I'm not looking for, AI to be overturned. AI is now going to be a part of our world. It's a bit like electricity. Sure. We have electricity as part of our world. We will always need that to be able to power refrigerators, our computers, our mobile phones, our cars, our whatever. We will still need AI. It's how we use it, how we adapt within the climate and the planetary limitations and the impact it's having on society. So that's why I wrote the book.
Very good. Thank you for sharing that. You argued that the old leadership playbook is dead. What specifically stopped working?
This is a hard one without actually feeling like I'm insulting people. You, me, a lot of leadership development people, learning and development people have spent a very long time working on a playbook to ensure that we have equitable communication, better communication styles, all of these different aspects. What we did not take into consideration over those decades when we first read oh gosh, I'm forgetting the name, The Fifth Discipline. When we first read The Fifth Discipline, when we first read Daniel Goldman's book back in the 90s. Everything started in the 90s, where we could see we were going beyond Jung, we were going beyond Freud, we were going beyond all of those different psychology books and learnings, and then applying it to organizational learning and how you're able to adapt, and then realizing actually it's human systems within the organization that can impact. And what was really missing, and why I feel very strongly that the old leadership playbook is dead, is that we're looking at systems without going under the hood again in our minds, and how we operate and how we communicate with each other. And the issue is, as you know, we all have these hidden issues that are usually and typically unresolved that prevent us from being able to communicate effectively, because we can often be concerned about the impact it might have. We may feel a little bit fragile. Like if you had said to me, Caroline, that green really looks terrible on you, that could actually cloud my judgment of this whole conversation for the rest of the day, or for the rest of this time. So it's one of those things where we're actually, as humans, we're very complicated. We have very complicated algorithms. We don't know what buttons push us. And often, you're an EQ specialist as well. You know that each of us have those unique traits. And unless we are able to understand them, manage them, adapt, negotiate with them. So especially with all of the external realities around us, it's going to hinder us. So that's why I believe we need to be more trauma informed. We need to be more understanding about all the different nuances. And that doesn't mean sitting back and just saying, well, this person is just going to be, like this and to just deal with it. We all need to learn to adapt, to deal with our challenges, the challenges of our time.
Yeah, so I think what you were trying to say at the beginning is we're certainly not insulting anyone. Just there seemed to be a lot of emphasis on structure, policies, procedure,
right,
results, profit, which is all important. But how does emotional intelligence have an effect on all of those things to make the whole system bigger and better? And now with AI coming in, it's a companion to emotional intelligence to help us. Is that a fair assessment?
Yes. I mean, I love AI for pushing back directly to me. I have to negotiate with AI. So be able, whenever I'm using ChatGPT or Grok or what's the other one I use? Claude. I often find that they all have different personalities with me, depending on their own style of communication. And I'll often use all three simultaneously to be able to see what feedback is it going to give me, what do I need to adapt, and then I'm able to see different patterns, and then I'm able to adapt at that particular time. So it's all very powerful, but it's also very important, and we may talk about this later, which is, does AI replace the therapist? Do they replace the coach? I would say absolutely not, because we need those mirror neurons to happen. Often we can get a result with AI in fraction of the time, whereas to wait for the therapist for a week, or the coach for 2 weeks, when we're in a we need results right now kind of phase, you need to be able to balance it off, because otherwise we lead to burnout and loneliness.
And I found with ChatGPT, and I'm still kind of an early learner of all of this AI stuff, but with ChatGPT, I have to tell it sometimes, please stop cautioning me so much. This is my area of expertise. So it's almost like I have to tell it a little less logic. I am human, add a little feeling in. So we kind of go back and forth on how to balance that.
That is good, because you're training the tool. So I once heard somebody say, and I wish I could credit the person, they said, you should treat AI like an intern. And then somebody else said, you have to treat it like a child. You have to explain how you want to be communicated with, and you have to provide a lot of data to ensure that it can communicate with you really, really well. Now, I'm really glad that you're AI curious, because that this is the direction. It's like not being curious about Windows 95. back then. It's like, well, this is going to be changing the world, so we got to get used to it. This is what it is. Yeah, we have to work with email. This is how we are. Or not being mobile phone curious back at that time as well. So you're AI curious, which is absolutely fantastic. The issue is, I think, is being able to understand just how much you have to provide it. So you might want to extract, and there's another tool for this, which is really good, called Notebook LLM, and by Google. And what you're able to do is just provide a whole bunch of links, of resources. You could upload your book. You could do all sorts of things. Maybe you would have access to other books, and you just put it all up there and ask it to provide a synthesis of all of the different things that you've learned. Or you can then put that into ChatGPT and say, this is how my brain works. This is the full body of information. When you communicate with me, I'm looking for you to articulate the psychological aspect of it. I'm looking to you to provide the systems aspect of it. Or, because you're a coach, you probably do that. If you're a financial officer, you might ask for something different entirely.
Right. Well, thank you for that excellent input. Maybe to go a little more specifically into your book, because if you saw, I have your book printed out. I have tabs.
Thank you.
And they're green, by the way. Little green tabs all through your book. But some things that really stood out to me that I found interesting, if you don't mind, we start with. You make a really strong point that leadership starts with the internal system, not the external one. Why is that so hard for leaders to understand and or accept?
Most people want to be able to control the external realities. We'll get frustrated. We'll doom scroll. We'll look at the news. We'll have an opinion about that. But it is very, very hard, me included, maybe you too, to be able to sit down with oneself and go, you know what, I need to adjust my attitude to all of these different aspects. There's a lot going on right now, and I'm sure you know a lot about this too, and I'd love to have that conversation with you about it, which is when we are able to just let go of this uncertainty, because it is highly anxiety inducing. It's creating an incredible amount of loneliness and isolation, because people are tired of, well, for me especially, I'm tired of actually talking about all of these different things that are happening every single day by the hour. It's exhausting. It burns you out, burns everybody out. So to be able to go, why do I feel the need to look at the news all the time when I cannot control it? What can I control? Right. I can only control myself, my reaction to all of these things. And actually, I no longer want to react to this because I cannot control it. So what do I want to spend time on to control? And I'm going to tell you something which is very fresh and very new. Last week, I was diagnosed with delayed concussion recovery. And that is not the clinical name for it. But I had concussion. I hit my head quite severely 10 months ago. And I didn't realize that my concussion was lingering. It was impacting virtually everything. And it wasn't until I spoke to the doctor last week. He said, Caroline, it sounds like you've got a problem with your with the concussion. You've still got these after effects. And if you don't deal with them, they're actually going to get worse. We're going to fix this. And I'll see you in 2 weeks. And I said, I don't have 2 weeks. I've got to get on with this because my quality of life is actually deteriorated. That was the thing. I had enough of it. I wanted to take action. So I spoke to a friend and she gave me 5 different sources because she's in the pain management business. And she said, have this company. And when I saw that go to this company, they focus on concussion recovery and they accelerate it. 12 sessions, you'll be fixed because it's done in a simulation. I said, I'm up for it. So I started this week and already I can see the shift. So if I just put that live experience to anybody that's listening, you got to identify that there's a problem. It's like, for me, I was in denial that it was a problem. I actually thought I was just aging too quickly. I'm 54 next month and I'm kind of having my mid-50s crisis here. And what I realized is that, hey, what I need to do is acknowledge that there is a problem, because I didn't realize it was a problem. It's a hidden disability. There's a problem. Find a solution, get to it, notice the changes, and immediately things started to picking up. And as we know, you've got this compound effect once you feel like you're in control of yourself once again.
Yes, well, I would love to get that resource from you. I studied neuropsychology when I was doing my PhD program, and I studied traumatic brain injury a lot, which is a little more severe than concussion. But yes, a lot of interesting things. It's unbelievable how the brain literally controls everything in your body, your thoughts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which is why, with your experience, that understanding how your brain is operating, or at least being curious to that. I had to be curious. I'd actually got to my wit's end. And I was like, I can't live like this anymore. It's not manageable. I have things to do. I'm on a mission. I can't do my mission if I'm not feeling well. And everybody that's working has also got something that's holding them back. And if they're curious and they're hungry enough, they're passionate enough, they're what's the word when somebody is dogged enough, find that solution. Make it happen.
Well, I'm glad you found that solution. Very, very good.
Thank you.
And you made the comment about not reacting to things. In my book, Win-Win Leadership, I talk about the power of the pause. Sometimes it's better to pause than react, so you can let the emotion pass and then form your response to something. So another commonality we have in your book, you talk about invisible forces at work and the nervous system regulation. Tell us what the big T and the little t trauma is, and how courage and clarity can replace doubt and hesitation to unlock the potential for growth, because that's right in line with what Win-Win Leadership podcast is about.
Oh, we could just talk for hours, couldn't we?
Yes, we could.
I love this. So big T, little t, it's all about trauma. Big T trauma is, let's say your house has been destroyed during one of the forest fires, or the fires in Malibu quite recently last year, or an earthquake, or somebody has died in front of you. They're big traumas that make you feel like, and I'm sure you've got better language than I have. I try and keep it as layperson as possible, which is that you're looking at a complete shock to the system. Your sense of reality, your sense of being, your sense of safety in the world has completely been changed, because you can't even go to the bank anymore because you can't find your bank records, or you're starting over. So how can you continue? And for many people, that is just too much for people to get through, and that requires a level of help that's not my area of expertise. But there are these little traumas that we have that everybody can manage. They may come from an experience during childhood, relationship patterns with parents, all sorts of things that we're able to go, you know what, that was actually a little bit traumatic, or maybe you were pushed over a diving board. You don't really like going around water because you don't trust anybody anymore to do that. You're able to find ways around that, through therapy or through whatever. But a lot of people, if they've never had any form of therapy whatsoever, as I'm sure you know, they are more likely to have a variety of unspoken, unrealized, invisible forces that are driving them forward in some way. And I first came to experience this when I had my, I don't know if you know the man Gabor Mate. He talks about trauma all the time. That's his area of expertise. He worked in the downtown east side in Vancouver, which is an extremely sad location on the planet, where the entire street has homeless people with some serious drug issues. And he argues in his book, the realm of hungry ghosts, they have experienced incredible trauma from a very young age, so they become addicted to substances. That is one extreme case where they haven't had the support at all. People that are listening to your podcast are going to be advanced leaders. They're going to be professionals. They may not have had that level of trauma, or they will have been resilient and driven to be successful to overcome a lot of those challenges. And then sometimes they're unable to realize that actually those little traumas, those little T traumas, are impacting them in ways that are actually not sustainable. So addressing those, understanding what they are, and the Leadership Circle program, an assessment tool, is a superb way of being able to see where the gaps are and how a leader is able to evolve. Mm-hmm. And it goes very much in the what's under the hood that's preventing you from that's actually what's driving you, what's motivating you, whereas other people will see something completely different. So coming to terms with those two realities, mm-hmm. and how a person may want to adapt to essentially make the individual happier, more not relaxed, less maybe anxious in some of the areas that they may want to strive and be successful with.
Have you found that some CEOs are maybe unaware and haven't quite looked in the mirror to see that these old internal patterns or little traumas have actually been affecting their decision making? And how can one become more internally aware?
Yeah. Well, let me tell you my story, which is that before I became a certified executive coach about 14, 15 years ago, whenever it was, I thought I was just great. I thought I was just the cat's pajamas. I was like, I'm driven. I'm going to succeed. I can do whatever I want to do. Pew, 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 pew. And I would just go out and do stuff and, achieve, climb mountains, do whatever, be a super high achiever. And then when I went and did the Certified Executive CEC course, it was brutal. Like the International Coaching Federation really rates that school, Royal Roads University, really highly. I did not expect that it would be an inner work job. So yes. I felt I was I don't know, sidelined, sidetracked, whatever it is. I did not know it would be that inner work. And that's where it gets you, because once you start doing the inner work and going, I didn't realize I did that. Yeah. I didn't realize I was hurting in that way. I didn't realize that I was actually jeopardizing and sabotaging my own success because of all of these different aspects, from a team collaboration perspective or whatever. It meant that I had to go through some serious changes, and it was absolutely transformational. And that's when myself and many other coaches that go through that program and many other ICF-related programs across the world will find it so incredibly transformational that they want to support others in the process. But at the same time, the great thing about executive coaching education is that you're realizing that you've got outcomes you have got to achieve, and they're way up there. But to be able to get up there, you just kind of have to make a few adjustments, a few tweaks. Nothing insane, nothing crazy. We don't, you don't have to go and find yourself for 10 years on a beach. It's really a case of making those adjustments, coming to terms. I love the way you said that you talk about the pause. And that's the one thing you learn in coaching. You don't have to, and coaching school, which is you don't have to rush in with an answer. You can listen. You can learn to actively listen. You can learn to understand and see all of these systems at play with a quieter core, which only happens through that kind of inner work training to then understand, actually, I think we're going to have a better solution if we adopt all of those things without kind of running through walls.
You mentioned the word transformation. Mm-hmm. In my book, I talk about clarity and making bold moves, and ultimately coming to the transformation. What do you feel like it does for other people once you've found your alignment and transformed? Do you find that as you yourself, or in leaders or CEOs that you coach, some of your clients, how it has had such a positive impact on the people they lead?
Yeah, I mean, it varies person by person, doesn't it? Sure. It's like you go to Disney World. Everybody has a different experience of Disney World. Or they watch Project Hail Mary. Everybody has a different experience of Project Hail Mary. It's just different. So everyone's different. I mean, you can have, and I think it takes a very experienced coach. And I'm not tooting my horn. I mean, I know many great coaches that have a completely different style to me, and I adore their style because they can say just a few words in what I will take about 500. So everybody's different.
Okay.
And
Yes.
lots of different coaches. But I find that it's really dependent on the scenario. If you go in, as I invariably do, and do 100-day coaching programs, there's not much time for the pause, because you're dealing with a different kind of environment. With something that's a slightly longer engagement, or you're doing an offsite for a week. I like doing offsites for a week. That's where you can really ground people to do the work. But as you probably know, you need to be able to get the entire group together that work together to be able to do that. So then they can take that unit or that mindset to that back to work. And they'll have crafted those agreements. Everything is possible, but it depends on the mindset. It depends on how open the individuals are. It depends on, co-creating those agreements right from the very start of just how far do they want to go? How far do they want to explore? What are they looking for? Can they trust the journey? And trusting the journey, as you know, is absolutely crucial, because what people don't realize, and I'm sure you know about this as well, which is that if you look at an Olympic athlete, for example, they spend all of their time training so that they're able to perform, on the day. The majority of leaders spend all of their time performing and then training for 2 hours. A year, or spending 45 minutes with a coach every 2 weeks. So, so this is why I quite like AI, because if you combine AI as a coaching tool, and it's a dedicated coaching tool, and yes, of course, you can use ChatGPT to do that as well. But if you use a tool that is specifically targeted to understand exactly where you're at, you upload all of your assessments. So I've done that. I've uploaded all of my assessments and said, "Hey, what do you make of me? Who am I?" And then it will, blurt everything out. And I'm like, "Sure, that's good synthesis." But then I'm like, okay, well, how do I then go to that next point? And then you're able to work out how to go to that next point. But if you do that in isolation, you're not going to get the results that you want. People are just going to go, why is this person running off there? Why aren't they bringing us with? Because why aren't we all going together to make that solution happen? So I really recommend entire groups.
Well said. Well said. One of the things I really enjoyed about your book, Aftershock 2030, is the reflections at the end, Aftershock reflections. And one that I wanted to ask you about, where do you see the biggest gap between what leaders say and what they do? So what's like one concrete example or action that leaders could take to close that gap between what they say and what they do? Because at the end of the day, indecision is a decision, right?
Yeah. Well, thank you. Yes. Well, cognitive dissonance is at large every single day of the week. We say we're never going to have caffeine, and then we go and have caffeine. We just can't help it, because we're creatures of habit, and it's very hard to adjust when we're talking about what we say and what we do. I mean, this is being able to own up to it without being embarrassed, I think, is really crucial. And just go, I just did that again. What little thing do I need to do next? Having that kind of playfulness with ourselves, I think, is really crucial. Having a little Jiminy Cricket on your shoulder is really helpful, because if you don't, it's very easy. And I see this as well. And I'm having to catch myself a lot all the time, which is I say I'm going to do something, or I'll write an article and I'll say, yes, the world should be blue. And then I'm actually playing in a world that is actually yellow. And I'm thinking, oh, gosh, I've really got to bring that gap. So it's about sitting down and realizing it. Also, one thing that I like to do, and I don't do enough of this, I'm sure you use this as a tool, is journaling, to be able to see, well, how far have I come in a particular time? Or what did I say I was going to achieve this week, and what did I not achieve? Or, by the end of it, or what did I achieve? What did I surpass? What surprises did I have? So you can see, again, that kind of gap, and then you're able to do an assessment on a regular basis of, how much further do I need to go? What do I need to stop? So that kind of assessment of oneself and recalibration, and it's a constant. It can be a whole lot of not fun to do that constant performance review, and there can be a lot of self-flagellation across the process. But if you go in with a lot of curiosity, I'm just looking at my list there of the week. I've got enough ticks. Not all the ticks are there, but it's a process.
Yeah, and you said this well. It's important to remember how far you've come. We always think we have so far to go, but we work really hard. And if you look back, you've really come a long way. So journaling, yes, is a very, very good tool. I'm glad you mentioned that. You talk about psychological safety as being critical for change. Why do most organizations struggle to create psychological safety?
I met Amy Edmondson last November at Thinkers 50, and she created the term psychological safety, I think, in 1999. And a lot of people have misinterpreted her research, her language. So I need to tread very carefully that I don't follow those steps. Because looking back at my book, I probably didn't get it 100% right. So I have to tread carefully, and also suggest to your listeners that they do their due diligence and read the latest Harvard Business Review article from Amy specifically on this, because she calls it out, which is people just haven't gotten it right. So psychological safety is really about, and she gave this great example at Thinkers 50, which is what sticks with me. She gave the example where when nurses were in the hospital, they were able to bring things up that they might have been concerned about without it damaging their reputation, without it being a career impacting conversation or communication. That's when you've got psychological safety. So the issue is, most of us aren't feeling particularly secure. I'll be honest with that. Somebody says to me, Caroline, I really don't like the way you talk, or I don't like the way you are, blah, 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 blah. I'm less likely to probably be direct with them. It's just how it is. Unless I say to them, hey, what is it that's offending you here? And, and just then to have that kind of conversation with them, very open conversation with them, to say, well, how is it affecting you? What is it that's impacting your ability to do that? And then coming to some kind of resolution. But majority of communications don't happen in that way because one or two parties or many parties may feel uncomfortable. So psychological safety is about being able to feel comfortable, in my opinion, to speak openly about the issue that might impact a life, might impact the outcomes, without being fearful that their job might be on the line, or that it might impact their ability to be promoted or whatever. Kim Scott's book, Radical Candor, really covers that well. If you care about, you have to do something with care. It isn't about being obnoxiously aggressive in a communication. It's about, do we care about this outcome? This is the path that we need to take, rather than it being about maybe somebody's ambition or being cautious about whether or not their job is on the line.
Yeah. In my book, I talk about trying to create a culture of honesty, fairness, and kindness.
Yeah.
So it's about making people feel safe to have those difficult conversations. To be honest, most people do not enjoy having difficult conversations.
No.
There may be a few, but not many of us enjoy it. So how do you start on neutral ground to make everyone feel safe to have these conversations? Because ultimately, if you have them, you resolve the issue and move forward to that win-win aspect. So, another important aspect of that is trust. How do leaders build trust when everything feels unstable?
They have to do what they say they're going to do to build that trust. That's pretty much it, which is a hard thing to do. And also, thank you for reading the book. And right at the very beginning, I talk about mea culpa, which is, to apologize for what has gone before and what will happen next. And the issue is that you have to be able to trust anybody in your organization. If you say, I'm going to do something, you've got to be able to do it. And I remember that was one of the first things I ever learned from a coach. I think I was 23 I think 5 or 26, I had a coach that wanted to work with me. And he said, one thing you need to learn, Caroline, is that for people to trust you, you have to do what you say you're going to do. And I was like, well, yeah, okay, good to know.
Yeah, that follow through is critical.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit more about AI. How fast is AI evolving? You mentioned in your book, faster than we think, and I'm certain that is true. How fast is it?
Super fast. When I wrote my book, so that was in 2024, book came out in 2025, I had predicted that agentic AI would be coming out. And that we would have an integrated system within our organizations whereby we would be able to communicate, la, 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 la. Organizations now have hundreds of agents working in their organization, agentic systems working in their organization. So, I went to MIT, so I was able to work that out. But even then, the MIT said what my suggestion was, which is an internal coaching operating system, was disruptive. And I'm like, well, I think it's going to be 2026, it's going to be happening. So that was a course that I did in 2023, wrote the book in 24, came out in 25, and kind of this is where we're at. So this is how fast it's happening. We're in 2026 right now. I just finished my what they say in soccer terms, hat trick of MIT courses, which was the new space economy. And I did that specifically because I wanted to understand how SpaceX's advancement in space technology and reusable rockets was going to amplify and accelerate the space economy. So I did that, and my mind was blown. I mean, seriously blown. I'm not an engineer. I don't do space rockets. I don't do any of that. But I was most curious in learning about it. And at exactly the same time, they talk about data centers in space. And I think to myself, okay, we're on the edge of something very interesting right now. Because if you can have data centers in space that isn't taking the Earth's resources, i.e. electricity, because we still need to power homes, and we have such an insatiable hunger for AI now to accelerate and advance technology. And even though quantum computing is going to apparently solve a lot of that in the not too distant future, maybe, perhaps not, who knows? It's one of those things where AI we're at the tip of the iceberg. And it's a bit like when the first analogy came out back in the 20 teens, somebody said, I wish I could attribute this correctly. They said AI is going to be like electricity. It's going to be everywhere, but it's invisible. Electricity is invisible. AI is invisible, and it's going to influence. It's going to nudge us. It's going to provide us with solutions and tools. And as we know, there's dystopian views out there. I'd rather not talk about that. I just try and look at the opportunities for us to advance ourselves with AI to create better solutions for the planet.
Very good. Well said. When I say the word win-win leadership or win-win decision-making, I'm referring to authenticity, growth, collaboration. What do you think a win-win decision looks like when AI is involved in the process?
I mean, I think the win-win with AI and humans is the win-win will be if humans and AI can co-evolve symbiotically in a way that does no harm. This is the important thing. People are burning out. People are becoming more isolated. People are becoming more lonely. If it can be done in a more conscious way, big thumbs up. If it's done in a way whereby we're doing no harm to planet, people, and we're able to evolve well from that. In the 2030s, we're looking at universal basic income for people whose jobs are displaced. I think what's really crucial is that people, and I said this back in 2019, I think during my TED talk, I've said it as soon as ChatGPT came out, people were really concerned, saying people shouldn't use AI. I said, actually, no, you need to learn how to use AI. You need to learn as quickly as possible. I'm not looking at people, just doing the coding, vibe coding. That's not what it's about. It's like, how do you use it so you're able to optimize the work that you're doing? Be curious. So AI curious. And I've seen people go from AI curious to AI super users where they're being really, really productive very quickly. within months. And I talk about that in my book. And I've seen people go from being AI curious to actually creating a total technology solution that has never been done before within a year. So it's actually really, really powerful. So it just requires being curious, have a little dabble.
For someone leading a team right now, what is one shift they should make immediately?
It depends where they are on the terrain. And I copied that word from Artificiality Institute. They did a lot of research, and they were able to identify that we're all on a terrain on our AI experience. Helen Edwards coined it. And when I heard that, I was like, yes, that's exactly what we're doing. You know, we've got people that's never flown a plane before, been on a plane before, and there's people that's been around the world 1,000 times. You know, and people are in between that. So we're on this terrain. So depending on the terrain a team is at, I think having that candid conversation of where are people at? Where is the team at? What is the goal? What is the North Star? What are the challenges that need to be overcome? What can the team do to make this possible? And to start experimenting as a group rather than in isolation, I think is going to be that would be what I would recommend, especially working with a coach at that same time. I think this is the crucial thing. A coach will be there to be able to talk about some of the flags in the moment on how the team dynamics aren't being optimized. So I think you need a coach to be able to support each individual while also the group and the dynamics to ensure that they're able to evolve. Will it be perfect? Of course not. It will just be advancing and developing and progressing and improving and then it's up to the unit to make that work as everyone progresses.
I agree. And people get a little too caught up in perfection sometimes. It's more about striving for excellence because no one's ever perfect. So very well said.
Nothing is perfection. Nothing is perfect.
Exactly.
Nothing ever. And the moment we get wrapped up in perfection, we then are fearful of making a mistake. And when we're fearful of making a mistake, we don't try. So one of the things I talk about in my book is, being an artist. Margaret Heffernan brought that up in her book that came out, which is, try to be like an artist. I talk about, Michelangelo. You're doing you're sculpting for the first time. What is it you want to create? Make those mistakes. You're going to make mistakes anyway. So accept those mistakes are going to happen, but do it in a lighter way. How can you find that lightness to experiment? Because, we can do it.
About a year ago, I started doing paint by numbers. I'm not an artist by trade, but I wanted to find something that I could do that would kind of ignite the creative side of my brain as I was building a new company and a new logo and marketing plans and all of this fun stuff. So I started doing paint by numbers. And I taught myself leadership lessons while I was doing this paint by numbers. So if you get outside of the lines, it's okay. You just paint over it with another color. And then you have a third beautiful color. And at the end of the day, you have these paintings, the big picture, and no one can see the small imperfections inside of them.
Are they behind you right now?
Yes.
Ah, they are good. I love the rose.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I did that one for my mother. Oh. And the other ones are places I want to visit along the way. So
nice.
Hey, one question about your former book, Elephants and Unicorns, just so we can highlight that for a moment. Tell us exactly what elephants and unicorns are, because I love your title. It's very catchy.
Thank you. So it's actually Elephants Before Unicorns, Emotionally Intelligent HR Strategies to Save Your Company. And at that time, really, I was trying to write my book Aftershock 2030, but the tone of the world was not ready for that kind of book. Many books had come out beforehand. But so at that time, I was trying to communicate. We all try to do something, to achieve something in the book. I was trying to communicate to CEOs, basically explaining your recruitment team and your organization and your marketing is unintentionally sabotaging your organization, sabotaging you from hiring the right people for your organization. Here's a blueprint to evolve that. We were talking earlier about cognitive dissonance. There are a lot of HR people that would read that and go, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's like, well, are you actually implementing it? Are you able to ensure that your organization is able to behave in that way? And invariably it was like, no. It's like, do you have a training budget for that? No. It's like, well, here you go. Here's the book. Try and do what you can with it.
Mm-hmm.
Try and create those units within the organization to be able to do that. And it feels like it was such a long time ago. It was 7 years ago when that was published. And my very last chapter, one of the last chapters in that book, is that it was talking about AI is coming. It's going to rapidly change the environment that we're in. Start playing with it. Start getting comfortable with it.
What does leadership look like in 2030 if we get it right?
Ooh, such a long way away. You know what?
On one hand it is, and the other it's going to be here before you know it.
I know. It's going to be significantly different. So significantly different. We're going to be very AI reliant. We're going to be coexisting symbiotically with AI. I believe that leaders from 2030 or before 2030 will be very focused on how their products and services are actually creating value, genuine value, not just creating, stuff. That's what I think we're going to be going now. Obviously, there's a lot of people that are going to say and listen to me and say, "Oh, Caroline, that's crazy." But you just have to look at the advancement of Gen X, Gen A. They're highly driven to see organizations perform for the greater good. You've got the US Surgeon General amongst many other institutes and institutions, I should say, that are very focused on creating a different business environment. So I'm actually attending the House of Beautiful Business Summit in May in Athens, which is a very exciting event because it's about changing the way businesses run. Just to name drop MIT again, I only learned yesterday that they use a tool that I had used when I was doing my business sustainability course, which was, but they're using it with every single MIT program. And it's called En-ROADS, EN-ROADS. And it's a tool whereby you're able to use all of the different levers on how to create a product or a service, and you have to identify how it's going to impact the world. So you're looking at electricity, you're looking at food, all of these different things to be able to make it work. Every single person that does an MIT course right now has to use that as part of the product. So I think by 2030, to get back to your question, by 2030, there's going to be AI symbiogenesis will have definitely taken place. And that was another phrase that was invented, I should say, by Helen Edwards, I believe, from Artificiality Summit. And then the second thing is that all organizations are going to be integrating that kind of planetary awareness systems within their organizations to ensure that they're creating products that are not doing harm to people or planet.
Well, Caroline, thank you so much for sharing all of your expertise today. I believe I could sit here and have conversation with you for the rest of the day, but I want to be very respectful of your time and hope that we can do a follow-up at some point. And before we leave, Caroline, tell our listeners, where can they find out more information about you and where to buy your book, Aftershock 2030? Because I highly, highly recommend it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. So people can find me at www.theforward.co. And my book is only available on Kindle and Audible, and there's going to be a new platform that comes out in a couple of months that is a living book that is heavily AI assisted, so it can feel like you're actually having a conversation with me while reading the book, which is really incredibly powerful. That comes out in May. So, like, I can't mention it right now because it hasn't. Actually, I can. Sorry, I'm going to just say that again. So the other place where you can get it is from Sinai, SINAI.ai. And if you download the book on Sinai.ai, you're able to have me as a coach. It's all there as part of the subscription.
Wow.
It's $3.99 or something. $3.99. You get the book. It's like an Audible version and a Kindle version all in one, while being able to interrupt the flow of conversation with a voice question. You can talk to it like ChatGPT and ask why that particular concept may be interesting and important for the organization that you're currently in. And because it's using all of the LLMs, you'll be able to hear my voice because they've synthesized my voice to provide that information. So it's a living book, as if I'm there. It's like Harry Potter. It's brilliant.
Oh, wow. You're a genius. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with our listeners. And again, I highly recommend Caroline's book, Aftershock 2030. Thank you again, Caroline, for joining us today.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate this time.